What's up, everybody? This is Claudio Alegre, and welcome to season 3, episode 9 or 10, I think. All right, I lose track of the Daily Pill, a webcast sponsored by our parent company, Angel Home Care Services. And hey, by the way, while it's fresh in your mind, go to angelhomecareservices.net, and there's a button there that says free report. Click on that report, and that'll take you to a page. And there, in that page, there's a place to download the how to have your elderly parents properly cared for without going broke in the process. It's a little guide that to getting home care services that you can afford without having to rely solely on your insurance benefits, which are of course never enough. And in the charity of other people, which of course is greatly appreciated, but inconsistent. And I think that you really enjoy this free report. I'm gonna read some of the bullet points there. You're gonna find out about all year-round open enrollment programs, straight-driven programs, by the way, that you didn't know existed, and which cover almost 100% of your parents' personal care needs. I'd also There's a little section in there that will teach you how to negotiate best possible rates with private caregivers or ACs, guys like me, to get rock bottom pricing without sacrificing quality, anything like that. It's full of amazing little hacks for family caregivers, and it's completely free. Just go over there, grab it. It won't be free for long. I'm writing the third edition, and so but today it is. Just go there, get it, and enjoy it. So today, we're going to talk about, this is the dumbest title I've ever thought of for anything, right? But then I started thinking about it, and it kind of makes sense, but it needs to be explained. And if it does, then it defeats the purpose of being specific and having abundant clarity. And that's we're going to talk about necessary versus unnecessary frustrations. And this is based on a blog post that I wrote a couple of years ago. And this whole thing started where I got a call from a friend of mine who was having a tough time with his 88-year-old mother who had Alzheimer's and dementia. And he was really, what's up, Camille? How are you? And was having a hard time really coping with this. And he called me saying, Claudia, I'm so frustrated. I don't know what else to do. My mother won't eat, drink. She misses her meds all the time. I'm with her as much as I can, but I got to work. And then, there's a lady that comes over to the house and she helps. The other day she got dizzy and fell and almost broke her neck. I had to spend the rest of the day in ER. I had to call off work. And it was just like he was layering, issue on top of issue on top of issue. And I could hear the frustration on his voice just getting worse and worse, right? And I understand. I perfectly understand. How I've seen my parents went through taking care of my paternal grandmother, and now we are also caring for our maternal grandmother, who's 102 years old. And it is, even though we are in this business, we're not exempt from frustrations of having to deal with, properly caring for a loved one, right? It affects everybody the same, right? But so we understand the game. I understood the game he was in, and I don't mean to suggest that we treat it as a game, like one, right? But what I mean to say by that is that for this game, there's also a playbook, right? And the sooner you learn the rules of the playbook, the better you'll be able to perhaps not just cope, but actually thrive as a caregiver and get benefits and fulfillment from doing the right thing, doing it right, and so that when it passes, right, that you can feel proud of how you faced it and how you dealt with it and how you helped that person, your mom, your dad, your spouse, whoever, right? And so, but the whole concept of necessary versus unnecessary frustrations came about because it's the only thing I could think of as I was trying to help my friend. And you know, and I think and by the way, if you go to the website, the website that I mentioned earlier, and you just look through some of the blog titles, you can read it here. I'm kind of just riffing off the notes here as well. But let me go through some of the what I consider necessary frustrations. Things that, by the way, they're necessary frustrations on impact, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't figure out a way to accept them as they are. Okay, understand that the punch is coming, and just take it. Right? It's part of the game. If you do that, if you know it's coming, it'll be better when it gets to you, right? Because you already know what to expect. And if it happens enough times, you'll be fine. You'll get used to it, while you look for better ways to get things done, always, right? And so necessary frustrations are things that you have to deal with. I just basically had a couple of bullet points. You can keep going. I'm just gonna, you can add bullet points on your own if you want. I'm just gonna go through a few bullet points that came to mind at the moment. And that was, like, for example, I consider necessary frustration something that there is very little way around it. You just have to deal with it. Is weekly doctor visits, where you have to take time out of a busy day to take your mom and spend 3 hours for a 15-minute appointment. All right. That's frustrating. How do you get around that? Maybe you can have a companion, right? Go with you. And if you need to talk to the doctor, you can talk to the doctor on the phone, but perhaps you don't need to spend the time there. You can drop them off with the help, with the companion, right? And then go do whatever you need to do, and then come back and maybe talk to the doctor on the phone while she's in there. But you don't have to be there at that point, right? Unless you want to be. Another one is having to find let's say, further down the continuum of care, is having to find a nursing home or an ALF because the home is no longer suitable for the caring of that person. That is, there's a bunch of that could be frustrating. That could bring all kind of sense of guilt and issues that you wrestle with. But there's also a way around it, finding a person who can help you with that, make the best decision, right? Find the ideal place closer to your house, on the way to work, affordable. There's people that all they do is that I think they're called placement coordinators. I know a couple, right? And when I get a family wanting to know how to do X, like in terms of placement, I just put them in contact with somebody. Problem solved, right? Getting denied insurance coverage for things like help with daily personal care, companion, homemaker, activities of daily living. That is super frustrating because you need what you need, but you're not getting the coverage from the insurance, which means you may have to come out of pocket. There's a few strategies there, which, by the way, are in the book that I mentioned earlier. Go back there, grab it, right now. And so extreme sundowning events that could keep you awake for days on end, right? Like there's nothing more frustrating than not being able to sleep and get rest because you're caring for somebody else. It's the easiest, fastest, most efficient way to burn yourself out, right? Again, there's a way around that. Find and get help, right? That can care for that person at night while you get some sleep, because you got to work the next day, or you got to function, right? So, and then of course dealing with the emotional weight that comes from just caregiving in general, right? And there's nothing wrong with being frustrated. What my friend was doing was he was layering, right? He was becoming part of the problem, not the solution. And usually because of the situation, caregivers, it's very easy to fall into that victim-like mindset where it's you against the world. No one helps you. It's getting worse, and it's very difficult when things kind of start stacking. But you have to be the you have to be the tiebreaker there. You have to take control of the situation. If you keep adding, that's what my friend was doing. He was paralyzing himself, he was paralyzing himself. He couldn't, wasn't being part of the solution. So even though I tried to talk to him and explain to him, here are some options that you have. So every option became a problem. So, he was working the problem. He wasn't working the solution. And he wasn't doing it on purpose. He was just frustrated, right? And so, so he was unnecessarily frustrated. And that's when I started making kind of the correlation between, necessary frustrations that you have to deal with, right? And if if you have the team, as I've always said, teamwork is one of the main things here. And you have the help, and you have the know-how, then those necessary frustrations become less and less and less, right? Because you know how to deal with them. And so, and the other thing is that I when things are coming down on you, and I recently went through that in my own agency, where we had 3 employees that were out, at one point, and we still work, and it was a tsunami of a rush. It was a blitz of work and responsibilities and all that, because we were shorthanded. Every time that happens, and by the way, with caregivers, that happens every day, right? You need to go in and start simplifying things down, chunking things down, compartmentalizing, so that you don't feel overwhelmed, even though you could be. And when it comes to caregiving, I always try to tell families, there's a little hack that it's 3 tasks, 3 times per day, 7 days a week. Just boil it down to 3 main tasks. When it all fails, your parents or your loved one or that person you're caring for, there are 3 main tasks that need to be done. One is bathing, right? So that they can keep the hygiene level up. That minimizes all kinds of infections and all of that, right? So bathing. The second one is medication management. Make sure that they take their meds on time, right? And as prescribed. And then third is feeding, right? Those 3 main things are, when you boil it down, if you get somebody to cover for you to do those 3 things, it's going to be fine, right? It's going to be good. You cover the 3 main things, or maybe you don't have 24/7 care, but you're covering the 3 main things. And within those 3, there's a 4th one that I always like to add, which is companion. Because when you got those 3 things covered, they still cannot be left alone, right? So companion is actually a certain level of companionship. It's probably a 4th one that you need to add there. But if you compartmentalize that, then you simplify it and you just realize, okay, you know what? I really need somebody to cover 4 tasks on a daily basis. And if I can do it, they can do it on a daily basis. Maybe I can do it, they can do it 3 times a week and I cover the other 4, but I'm getting a break, for a few hours, And so bathing, medication, feeding, and companion. Those are the things that I see families struggle the most with. And of course, in the book that you're going to download, when you go to Angel Home Care Services and you click on that button, there's a bunch of other things that you can do, a bunch of other programs that you can apply, because there are programs, the state-driven programs, that can give you those hours, right, for agencies and aides to come in through those programs, as long as your loved one is eligible for it, right, to go ahead and apply for them. And then, of course, there's always the option of coming out of pocket for a few dollars, right? It's not that expensive to cover those basic things privately, right? It's not really that expensive. And then get the help that you need, so that you don't burn out and you don't, and you actually can continue with your life. You can still be productive, and then you can take pride in caring for that person. So just remember that. Remember that, to simplify things when you feel you're being blitzed and you're being rushed. And so, but anyways, my friend eventually, was able to get the help. we were able to help him, with the care. That he was able to find private duty care on his own, and I gave him some pointers on how to do that and how to negotiate better rates and all of that. And eventually he was able to manage things down, and his mom spent her last days basically in pretty good shape, and after that, talking to him after the fact, he told me, oh, thanks for the advice. It really worked. It's just that when you're in it, you can't see the label of the jar you're in, right? It always helps when somebody from the outside gives you a little bit of a hand. So I'll leave you with that. And I really appreciate you showing up. What's up, Sonny? Thank you for showing up. Hi, how are you? Camille, as always, thank you for stepping by and pitching in. And of course, thank you for the engineering team behind, behind closed doors, I guess. Thank you, Blanca. And I thank you, everybody, for watching. And I'll see you next Wednesday. We're going to have a great guest. I'm not going to let it out of the bag. I think you're going to enjoy it. All right. So take care. Be safe. And I'll see you next Wednesday right here, 7:30, The Daily Pill. See ya.